What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reel Me In, a movie podcast where you didn't really ask for it, but hey, we're going to give it to you anyways. This is a podcast where we talk about anything, everything, and, well, anything about movies. I'm one of your co-hosts, Chase Lee, and hey, guys, listen, if you're searching on the web for another movie podcast and you accidentally open up this door, this Reel Me In door business, and you're like, well, what's going on here? And, you know, we just have this awesome party going on where we're just talking movies and just talking about things that don't exist, and you're a little scared and you don't know what to do, just come on in, join the party, join the conversation. That's what we like people here to do. If you are new and you have stumbled across us accidentally, please don't go. If you love movies, I think you'll love us as well. And if you're a returning listener, welcome back. But if you are a new listener, what we typically do is we'll go over some movie news and new trailers that drop throughout the week and commentate on for you guys. And then we'll have a review or reviews of movies that come out on said weekend and box office results to accompany that. You know, we might review like a blockbuster, indie film, two indie films, two blockbusters, mix mash. We give you guys the full spectrum of the industry. This is episode 241 and the main review up for grabs today, the main topic of discussion. I'm excited to talk about this one. I've been thinking about it nonstop. It would be Blindspotting. Now, I'm sure Joel's going to mention, but I'm going to go ahead and just say it. I'm still kicking my butt over it because we could have seen this movie almost 3 months ago. But no, it just we saw something else that time conflicted at the festival. But it is what it is. But we finally saw it. Yeah, so that's what we're reviewing this week, and I'm excited to tell you guys about my week. It's probably one of the best weeks of my life. But before we get into that, Joel, what's going on with you this week, and how you doing, man?
Well, my week was 700,000 times better than yours. I'm just kidding. It was a fairly low key week. We've had my nephews over, and just kind of been watching back through 2010 movies to, this decade's best movies to figure out what my favorites are. That's been a lot of fun. I've done like 3 or 4 this week alone. And it's been very helpful, really, really helpful. If you're not doing this, if you keep, basically, if you keep track of this and you want to create your own top 10, I'm telling, or whatever, at the end of the decade, telling you, watch back through your favorites, because you'll find that you maybe underestimated even your own taste, and you liked some stuff even more than you thought. It's just been very helpful. But yeah, I mean, about Blindspotting, it's kind of bittersweet because the movie that we saw instead was Generation Wealth. And so, as you'll find out, I mean, it is bittersweet because on the one hand we saw a great movie, but on the other hand we missed a great movie. So, yeah, we'll certainly get into that. It's quite a movie. But yeah, it's been a good week. It's been a good week. What was so great about yours?
Listen, Joel, there are times in people's lives where you just look forward to it. Like, usually when I get emails, I typically throw most of them away. Most of them are spam, or most of them are trash. But I got this one particular one, and it was super magical. It smelled of gold and prominence, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to open this because I saw the headline. I opened it up, and it's from one of my favorite people in the world, maybe like the 8th wonder in the world, Dinesh D'Souza. When I got his email to review his second film in his kind of modern era stuff, post Obama type of documentaries, I was just so excited, Joel. I was excited to see what he could bring us. Hillary's America, The Secret Life of the Democratic Party was just so great. And, I wanted to continue along that journey. And I guess people disagree with me, Joel, because my Hillary's America review, it got, I think like 13 likes and like 77 dislikes. I'm like, what did I do wrong? And so there's like 60 comments on it. And so this new one, Death of a Nation, which, by the way, is on my YouTube channel, and the view count keeps climbing, by the way, which, it's never a bad thing. Anyways, that is on my YouTube channel. I've had it up for 6 days. And I guess people don't like this one, Joel. So, it's got over 1,000 views, which is great because I thought it would hit the 1,000 mark by the time we recorded. It's got 21 likes, 74 dislikes, and 196 comments. A third of them are probably from me because I actually wanted to clarify my points, but after a while, there's just so much, there's just so much, barraging that you can take before you're just like, okay, I'm done. And if they want to call that a win, they can call it a win. So there you go. Anyways, it's just a fascinating thing, and that's why it's one of my favorite weeks, Joel, because I just love when people get so angry at a movie review and they start throwing politics in there, even though I reviewed it as a movie, and they're helping me out. They're helping me out, boosting the numbers and getting it more airtime on YouTube and, through recommendations and stuff. So they're actually helping me out. So that's why it was a good week. They're helping out my brand. And what's really funny is some of the comments I have major issues with. Now, of course, I get name called all the time, and I'm not lying. I've left all the comments up. The only one I deleted was someone tried to post a link to ripping the movie, and I was just like, no. Even like with someone as awful as D'Souza, I'm not going to allow that to be on my page. So that's the only one I ever deleted. So if you want to go look at them, I got called fat. I got called the R word, which is classy. I was called a fat idiot. Someone said I was crying in my video. I guess I was crying. Someone called me a hipster. I am in no way, shape, or form a hipster. Joel has been around me. I am far from hipster.
He is the farthest thing from hipster I think I can possibly imagine.
So basically what they're saying is, I'm just assuming this. If you look at someone, they wear black rimmed glasses, they're a hipster. Okay. So anyways, yeah, a lot of fun comments. I got made fun of while people were also saying Democrats are the ones that are violent and name calling, so that's ironic. But hey, you know what? We're not here to judge because it's just really funny. You can do a movie review like that. You can clarify in the beginning of the review. I'm not here to speak ill on either side. I'm not here to speak good on both sides. I'm just telling you how the movie is and where it can improve. And people, they just, man, I just imagine most of these guys that send all these comments are, I don't know, like in their mid-40s, and they wear like tight clothing in like a basement somewhere, and there's dust all over them, and like every time when they bite into their Hot Pocket, they always don't cook it long enough, and there's always a cold center. So that's how I imagine their lives are, and they just wait for people to reply back online, and they just, kind of go for it. Though, what's really funny, Joel? The comment that I found most intriguing, there was the guy who called me the fat R word, which, classy. Once again, classy guy, Joel. Classy. Anyways, he posted, and this is on there. You can go find it. He's like, I came here to dislike this video. So I'm actually starting to think that there was some person who was triggered, grabbed my review, and threw it on probably an all-conservative message board or something, and they probably pointed me out, and they're like, this guy's an idiot, go comment on his stuff. Because why would he say that? Why would he say, I came here to dislike this video? So,
Unless, of course, he knows you.
It's possible.
He knows your channel. He never comments otherwise or something. And so he remembered your previous review of D'Souza. And was like, okay, well, if ever a D'Souza movie comes out again, he's going to hate it, so I'm going to go ahead and hate his review or whatever.
It's possible that he just hate subscribed to me, and it's like he's just waiting for it. So you know what? In all honesty,
hey, it counts though, right? I mean, it's a subscriber.
Listen, so. it counts. And to be honest with you, I don't like D'Souza, but the guy has given me more attention in his 2 movies than most of the movies I ever review on my channel. So you know what?
Yeah.
Thank you. And also,
it's really interesting, by the way, that you got a screener at all, because what I've been hearing is so our friend Mark Dusick didn't like seek out a screener. He told me he didn't want to put himself through that, but he was not given one, whereas you were, And then there was another guy named Mike who writes. I actually don't know where he is. I think he's somewhere in the Northeast, but he requested a screener because he just wanted to review it and was refused it. He got an email back saying that he would not be given one. So it's interesting that you even got a screener and that you got it like without asking them.
Well, you know what's really funny is I think they sent it out randomly to me the first time with Hillary's America, and then when they saw that my review was very, very negative, they're like, "Oh, this is going to work perfect." So they sent me another one. I actually have a theory that he sends these screeners out to people that he knows are going to hate it, so people that are going to see it can comment down below and justify their reasoning to see it and go, "You're wrong. I'm going to see this movie," and then they go see it, and then they get he gets their money. It's such a genius marketing move. So everyone that commented down there that is so angry at me, you have been suckered, son. Like, seriously, like, you just got bamboozled by the Danouche. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Anyways.
Yeah, that's really funny. That's really, really funny.
But, on top of all that, saw Blindspotting, and before we kind of jump into this week's episode, while I got you guys' attention before you kind of doze off or whatever if you're new, because I have a sneaky suspicion, Joel, that a lot of people will click on our episodes and then they'll just be like, no, that one guy sounds like a 12-year-old. I'm not going to listen to him. All right, so while I got you guys' attention, I'm going to be holding a giveaway contest. So as you guys know, there's a little movie coming out, a little indie film called Avengers: Infinity War in Blu-ray in a couple weeks. I will be picking it up, and here is the kind of giveaway I want to give out to you guys, is that you can either tweet at Joel or myself, and the contest is going to be just tweet us and tell us what your favorite movie of the summer was and why. And that's it, and I'll pick one. And use the hashtag ReelMeIn. So ReelMeIn. That way I can tell where all the answers are at. But you can tweet at either himself or I, and I will pick a winner, and you will get the digital code, so you'll get a free movie. That's it. That's all you gotta do. And I want to. And listen, if one person does it and no one else does it in the next 2 weeks, congratulations, you just got a movie. So, but no, I want to do more stuff like that. I might do one for Deadpool 2 as well, because that literally comes out the week after Infinity War. So we'll see. But I am getting Infinity War for sure. So if you would like to get that digital code, comment down below. So moving on to this week's episode, Joel, we have a pretty gangbusters type of story to start out with on the news cycle.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. I didn't know that this happened until this came up, and then I kind of consulted my dad, and he was fairly familiar with it. But back in the early 2000s, there was a thing called, and it actually became known as the McScam. Okay, so it used to be that when you played Monopoly, you could go to a McDonald's and get one of the little placeholder things. Like if you have Park Avenue or whatever place is on the game of Monopoly, you could get a sticker that represented one of those places at McDonald's, and it was always kind of it included some sort of prize. Some of them included a $1 million prize. Those were very, very few, of course. Those are very exclusive. Some of them was just like you get free fries or something like that. But that's what happened. And so there was this gentleman who was a cop or a former cop or something, and he was injured on the job and was never able to fully recover. And so he became the head security guard of a company that sent out those little stickers. And so basically he was able to start hustling those to a bunch of unsavory types, many of them his own family members, until somebody kind of outed him within his family, who decided that they didn't like the fact that they were not being paid as much as their fellow, like other family members, basically. There's a lot more to the story, though. In fact, it at first didn't work because of some, sort of experiments that he decided to make to play with the idea, and it is being made into a movie. It's going to be directed by Ben Affleck, and it's going to star Matt Damon. So they're getting back together, not to star in a movie together, but we're gonna get to see Affleck direct Damon, and this is pretty cool. I like this a lot because these guys, wrote the Oscar-winning screenplay for Good Will Hunting together. They clearly are best friends from a long time ago. They know each other. They know how they know each other's rhythms. It'll be probably a fairly easy shoot for at least for them two. And I'm a really big fan of this idea. It's a very it's a very, 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 very complicated story. It includes mobsters. It includes FBI agents. It is very much a cinematic tale. Like it sort of reminds me of American Hustle in a certain way. There's definitely a connection there. And yeah, it's a super cinematic story. It's a story that's sold for 7 figures, which is insane. And I love that. So I cannot wait to watch this. It's going to be crazy, and it's going to be written by a guy named Jeff Maish, I believe. And he is the person, I believe, who wrote the story about it, or something. Let's see. So I believe that's right? It was the writer of the actual article. Yes, Jeff Maish. So Jeff Maish is, I believe, going to be the screenwriter, and then you're going to have Ben Affleck as the director, Matt Damon as the star. They're probably going to make the character a little bit younger, because I think that he was 56 when this happened back in 2001. But so they'll probably have to make him just a little bit younger for Damon to be in it. But in any case, I think his name is Jerome Jacobson. And I mean, it's insane. And I love this. I really want them to call it McScam. That's what I want them to call it. I really hope that that's what it's called.
And the Oscar for Best Picture goes to McScam.
McScam.
That would be a great moment in Oscar history. No, I'm
I
excited.
guess actually it's probably going to be called Final Answer, because that's what the operation was called.
Okay.
But in any case, that wouldn't
Joel,
really
thank
make
you
sense
for ruining my dreams.
I know, right?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that wouldn't really make sense as a title for this, though, to me.
Yeah.
But in any case, McScam would be more fitting.
I mean, it'd be pretty great to have a 1-2 punch after the founder, to have another gut punch to McDonald's in some way, shape, or form. And then we'll get the trilogy rounding out with the lady that burned herself with the coffee. That was a terrible joke. I apologize. All right, so anyways, I'm excited for this movie. When you hear about it, it's one of those ideas that just sounds insane. It has to be made up, right? But then you look into it. This is a real thing that happened. A lot of moving parts, and when you want to look at Affleck's directing style, he's able to work with moving parts and make a movie move at a very swift pace, whether you want to talk about The Town or Argo. And even if they would have kind of made the movie better, it wouldn't have been a bad movie, Live by Night, but it does have that kind of mobster mentality, that kind of epic mobster type of story, and so he's able to kind of juggle all these pieces together and kind of push them out. Not to the extent of like an Argo or The Town, but at least he tried. But this tells me, with him directing, that he's the perfect guy to kind of move this along, because Affleck is he reminds me of, like, I don't want to say like a B level, but he's like a Martin Scorsese understudy, where like he kind of reminds me of that type of filmmaking, where it's just really just swift and kind of agile filmmaking that just keeps you on your toes, whether it be from the cinematography or the editing. Affleck is perfect, and him directing one of his best friends, sign me up. I mean, this sounds like the recipe for success. I can't wait. Nothing more to say. There's nothing bad about this story except for when Joel just crushed my dreams. When he literally sat me down and he was like, "Son, I'm not mad at you. I'm disappointed. This is the title of the movie." I'm like, "Oh my god!" And so that's what just happened. I wish it really was a scam though. But other than that, I think this is great.
Yeah, it's a great story, and it's so long. Like the original article written by this guy is, I've opened it up here on the Daily Beast, and they have this thing where you can listen to the article, and it's 57 minutes long. Like that should tell you that there is a movie's worth of stuff here. It is a crazy story. There's so much to it, and I can't wait to see it all play out. Our next story, we have a couple of kind of small ones here. The first one is that that Netflix is at it again. Andy Serkis, for several years at least, has had an Animal Farm adaptation in the works. Now, Animal Farm, of course, is George Orwell's 1945 novel, which it stars animals, but it's all about kind of rebelling against the humans, and it's very much there's a lot of political stuff going on in it. It's a great novel, and I believe that his approach is probably going to be motion capture first of all, and so kind of coming off the heels of the recent news that they bought Mowgli, Netflix has swooped in and saved his movie. And they're going to be backing his version of Animal Farm, and I can't wait to see this. I think that it makes sense to make it into a motion capture experience. It's not going to be some big, like summer blockbuster. It's obvious. It's going to be, very George Orwell, but it is a work that has kind of come around to the zeitgeist again. It seems to, like every couple of generations, there seems to be a moment where Animal Farm is at its most relevant, and I think that right now is when that is, and I think that it's gonna be pretty great. And Matt Reeves is gonna produce it, so yeah, really excited for this. Have you ever read the book?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was a very C-, like heavy C- student in English, and so I didn't really pay attention, obviously, because I'm just not smart. But the three books I remember reading that I really enjoyed were Frankenstein, Animal Farm. Well, I guess four of them. 1954 and
1984.
Or 1984. I said 54 because that was when the animated Animal Farm came out, I believe. Yeah. Sorry. And then the last one is Night. Elie
Wiesel, yeah.
Yeah, that one's that's a great one.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I don't really remember many books in class, but Animal Farm was one of them. This makes total sense. When you want to talk about the master of mocap, adapting it into an Animal Farm adaptation, make all the animals mocap, and this is the type of story that's not really, kid friendly. I guess it has a kid friendly approach to it, but it's very adult oriented. And so he's going to take his mocap skills and apply it into a really mature story. Yeah, this sounds like a win-win. We'll have to see how Mowgli does, because yes, he is very well versed in mocap, but I think Mowgli is going to really kind of tell us what type of mature mocap person he is under the director's spotlight, not, acting or whatever. Because Mowgli, to me, always seemed like the way more mature and darker, Jungle Book, and we're going to kind of see a more kind of horrific take on it. If we watch it and it kind of delivers in that aspect, I think if you translate that, kind of darkness and maturity level over to Animal Farm, then it could be a nice little sleeper hit for Andy Serkis. So, all around great stuff. I have no issues with this.
Yeah, it should be pretty great. A couple bit kind of small casting news bits, but okay. of course, there's going to be this Fox News movie, and I literally just learned that the title of it is going to be called Fair and Balanced, which is pretty perfect. There's going to be a movie about the Fox News Roger Ailes scandal. Of course, Ailes died. I think it was last year or the year before that, but not before being outed as one of the horrible sexual harassers in the course of the last couple years. And some key names in that were Megyn Kelly, who they've already announced is going to be played by Charlize Theron. But another one was Gretchen Carlson, who was the host of Fox and Friends, or the co-host of Fox and Friends. And they have gotten literally the most perfect person to play her, and that is Nicole Kidman. There's also going to be Margot Robbie, who is going to play producer Kayla Pospisil, which is a great name. And this is the movie that's going to be directed by Jay Roach, who, of course, he's directed some comedies, but kind of his most prominent form of operation is in political dramas. He directed Game Change, which was about Sarah Palin and had Julianne Moore, and then Recount, which was great. I think that's his best movie, probably, about the 2000 voting scandal surrounding the first election of George W. Bush, and that one was pretty great. I don't like his movie Trumbo with Bryan Cranston. It's bad, and Cranston's bad in it, but Cranston is bad in it. Bleh. But this one's going to be coming from The Big Short co-writer Charles Randolph, who is a very smart guy. So I think that this is going to be a really good one. And so it should be interesting. And I'm also wondering, like, there's also going to be characters like Bill O'Reilly and everybody. Is Sean Hannity going to show up in this? And who is going to play him? Because I'm I'm really, really interested. And to put it like Collider said, in terms of who's going to play Ailes and all these people, can Christian Bale just play all these characters in heavy makeup? That would be great. But yeah, I'm liking how this is coming together, because Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie is some kind of coup, some kind of casting coup. That it's just amazing to me that they're able to get all of these people together. I just love this. I think that it's very, very interesting. So what are your thoughts about Kidman playing Gretchen Carlson?
Oh, I absolutely love it. And she kind of looks like her. Like it's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like scary.
You just get that same kind of whatever cut of a haircut that she has,
right? They kind of
put
like
it on her.
short blonde hair.
Right past the chin, kind of thing, curled in. Yeah, it's perfect casting.
It's good stuff. And I was actually thinking about this while you were talking. I mean, if Gary Oldman wanted to double dip and get his makeup team from The Darkest Hour, he could play Roger Ailes. He kind of looks like a very bloated Winston Churchill. So there you go.
Wow.
No, this sounds like a great idea. And setting political jokes aside, I mean, Joel and I don't have to tell you who we kind of lean towards and who we don't. I'm sure you can kind of pick it up from our sarcasm, but I actually want to see this stuff. I want to see, real life story on any corporation or any type of political side. I don't care what your political leanings are. I find this stuff fascinating. And I think if you get the writer of The Big Short, you get this star-studded cast. Now, I will be the first one to admit I've never seen any of Jay Roach's dramas, but I mean, if the guy can create and kind of be a part of one of my favorite comedy franchises, Austin Powers, then he can do no wrong. I will give him a chance on whatever he wants to do. So, I like I said, can't really comment on his dramatic stuff, but I think with this cast, this really just kind of like deeply intricate story. I mean, we're looking at a possible kind of round 2 for The Big Short in terms of, if this movie is as remotely good as we think it is, this thing is going to be Oscar gold. And so, I can't wait to see it. I will be the first one in line, whether I agree or disagree with what Fox News does. I will surely be there.
For sure. The other bit of casting news is that Rebecca Ferguson is going places as we thought that she might. When many of us first saw her in Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, and of course she's in Fallout. She had the best number in The Greatest Showman, I think, and while she was kind of in the flailing disaster of the Snowman, The Greatest Snowman, I had to go there. She's a really good actress. She was certainly an eye catcher, and she has landed 2 key roles. One of them is in the Men in Black spinoff that stars Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, and she's joining a cast that also includes Kumail Nanjiani and Emma Thompson. Crazy cast for that movie. It's going to be directed by Chase's favorite director of The Fate of the Furious, F. Gary Gray. And then she's also going to be in Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel of to The Shining, going to be directed by Mike Flanagan. It's already got Ewan McGregor in the role of the adult Danny Torrance. And so, yeah, I like this. She had been eyed for Alien Covenant, I believe. So clearly, she was also in The Girl on the Train. So she's going places, and I like this. I think that she's a solid actress, and I'm excited to see her in more stuff. And I think that this is a career trajectory that makes sense to me. So I'm a fan of this.
Joel, don't ever bring up The Girl on the Train on this show again. That movie
I didn't see
needs
it,
to be
so.
buried in out to pasture. Yeah, when I first saw her in Rogue Nation, I was blown away. She was fierce, she was badass, and she was a great like kind of partner to Tom Cruise in that movie. Whether it was romantic or just work related, there was that chemistry there that I couldn't keep my eyes off her. She was just that compelling to watch. I didn't really like The Greatest Showman, and I thought she was one of the better actors in that movie. Girl on the Train, I guess same deal. She has picked a couple sneakers in my eyes, but I still think she's a solid actress. However, you put her in these 2 movies, we're going to see her pushed to acting abilities that we've never seen from her before. We're going to see her tackle psychological horror and comedy. I don't think we've seen that from her yet. So it's going to be really refreshing to kind of see her just be in different things in the next few years and really just kind of either surprise us or disappoint us. But I think showing her kind of solid start in the Mission Impossible franchise to get a lot of eyes on her, and of course, dabble in a couple of mediocre to bad things. I think I think she's a good pick for these 2. So I want to see her kind of expand her catalog a little bit. And I think these are the 2 to do it.
Yeah, for sure. It's a really solid career trajectory. I feel like we could eventually see her in the running for Oscars for sure. I think that she's that good. Yeah,
I think people will underestimate her just because she's in she's in a blockbuster franchise, or she was in a really lifetimey movie like Girl on the Train. I'm telling you, if you watch her, and even in the bad stuff, if you just watch her, she is a great actress. And so just to see her in a promising start to get better, I'm going to call her right now. This is going to be one of these actresses that's going to be nominated for an Oscar. Maybe even win it, but she will be nominated at some point.
Yeah, for sure. She's very promising, for sure. All right, so the last bit of news. Okay, guys, I'm really glad that I did not sign up for MoviePass. I had vague interest at first, but I just wasn't in a financial place to even think about it at the time that it was kind of taking off, and I didn't do it. And I'm kind of glad because it's no longer profitable, and it's just become a giant mess. Of course, it started a couple weeks ago when they ran out of money and on their end, and couldn't and kind of shut down the whole app. And people noticed that, obviously, and were very, very, very angry. And then what they did in order to make sure that they didn't lose money anymore was raise the price per month from $9.95 to $14.95. which is quite a difference, gotta say. And then also they limited first run movies on 1,000 screens or more, unless they were made available on a promotional basis. And then they also kind of instituted a bunch of different tactics. They gave a lot of fake apologies and stupid reasons for doing so, and they made a lot of people mad. And so, yeah, Chase, is MoviePass just dead?
Yes.
Yeah.
If you ever run a business, if Joel and I ever want to start a business, and we look at the stocks and we go, I go, hey Joel, our stock is now down to 7 cents, and we started like in the hundreds. I forgot what the number was when they did that reverse stock split, but they brought it up, and then it went in half,
was like,
and then it went in half again.
Yeah, wasn't it like from 8 cents to like 1 cent or something like that? It was
something like that. There was crazy drop.
Yeah, there was something insane. I can't remember what it was, but I don't understand stocks, so forgive me. But I think it actually might have been like 1 to 250. So it was maybe 8 cents to like $22.50, which caused maybe the shares. I think it was the shares went down to 1 cent or something like that. 1.1. I don't remember. I don't know. I don't really understand these things, but all I know is the stocks like did a whole backflip, kind of, and they answered by kind of raising everybody's prices to try to get them to pay more money, and it's just bad business, guys. I hate it, and I think, again, I'm not going to be signing up for this thing, obviously now, and I'm really happy I didn't, because it just seems like it just seems like it's dead. It just seems like it's on its last legs to me, and I'm going to be signing up pretty soon for the AMC Stubs A list, because that thing is really impressive. $19.95 a month for 3 movies per week, and apparently the whole system is running very smoothly, and it's with an established theater chain. That's the thing about MoviePass, is that it's just a service. It's not. It's just an app. It's not even a service, really. It's just kind of this peak pricing thing that allows you to get tickets, but it doesn't belong to a theater chain. It works with theater chains, and it's entirely dependent upon the app's functionality and the business's functionality. Whereas if you have a theater chain that has something like this, then they already have you pay for tickets. Obviously, they have enough money to be able to keep something like this running. Whereas with MoviePass, it was entirely this one dude, this guy, and his money keeping it alive. That was it. And I just felt like it was a really cool idea, but it's just dead in the water. And I don't understand why they don't just shut it down. Now, what's interesting is, apparently when you sign up, this is what I've heard, when you sign up, especially recently, it is almost impossible to cancel. So all these people who have it currently in these last stages are kind of out of luck in terms of getting out of this. So I have a feeling that at some point they're just going to say, well, no more, and they're going to just stop, and then nobody gets their money back, which I guess wouldn't happen anyway, but nobody really gets their money back. They just stop paying for this, and then it just stops. That's what I'm guessing. But right now, I mean, I made this joke that, maybe I should sign up for MoviePass to our friend Mark, and he said, well, you better hurry. And this was yesterday, when I think it was yesterday or the day before, and he said, well, you better hurry, because otherwise you won't make the Tuesday morning screening of Skyscraper, which is a great joke, because that's the only kind of movie you can see right now with MoviePass is Skyscraper in its 4th week. That you can't see any of the new movies. You can only see new movies that are like 4 weeks old, and that's it. That's all that you can see. So it was a cool idea. It's just not profitable anymore. I don't understand why they're still in business and they're still trying to make this thing happen. It's just it's just not smart business, and I just don't get it. So, in any case, that's kind of the bit of news. Do you have any other thoughts, Chase, or pretty much is it just dead?
No, I mean, I think people have to realize subscription services are not a bad thing, and if you run it properly, then you can be one of the most successful things in the industry. And there is a positive to having these types of services. I'm glad people are seeing more movies and taking chances on them and stuff, but what it boils down to is that MoviePass and whoever owns it just did not know how to run it properly, and they ran themselves into the ground. So it's not because people are not buying subscription services or all that stuff. Is because they set rules, they change the rules, they flip flop on a lot of stuff. It's just they never seem genuine to me, and that's why they're failing.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's just a dying brand, kind of. Well, not a dying brand, a dying. I don't know. It just seems like it's in its last gasps to me, for sure, in many ways. All right, guys, let's move on to the trailers this week, and the first one is one of my most anticipated movies of the year. It's If Beale Street Could Talk. Now, this is Barry Jenkins' follow-up to Moonlight, and it is an adaptation of the James Baldwin novel of the same name. And this trailer, man, is excellent. We see Jenkins's hands all over it, because I think that what we found out is that one of his signature shots is a back and forth between two characters who seemingly are looking straight at the camera. We see that a lot in this trailer, and it's just really effective how he stages that. It looks gorgeous. I mean, it has many of the same people involved in the production of Moonlight: cinematographer James Laxton, Nicholas Britell with the score, the editors Joy Sanders and I think it's Nate McMillan or something like that. And the cast, man, Regina Hall. You have oh man, I just lost the thread of the cast, but it's a great cast, and I just think that this is perfect material for him. I mean, seeing him credited as Academy Award winning writer and director of Moonlight, and then from the novel by James Baldwin. I mean, imagine being in the theater watching that trailer, like as somebody who loved Moonlight, and particularly if you're a black audience member who loved Moonlight and loves James Baldwin and all of this. I mean, this is just like heaven on earth. It's a great trailer. The plot follows what seems to be a wrongful conviction involving sexual assault, and it's just a great trailer, and I cannot wait to see this movie. Stephen James, Ed Skrein's in this, or Screen, however you say his name. Some great names in this movie, and I just think it's a beautiful trailer, and it just reaffirms that it's absolutely one of my most anticipated of the year. So I'll just give it away. This is my favorite trailer of the week. It's no competition. Chase, why is it your least favorite trailer of the week?
That's a bold lie. I don't know why Joel likes to do that to you guys. Anyways, Joel, before I get into my thoughts, would you like to explain to our lovely audience what kind of terrible joke you made about this movie and the movie The First Man?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead and announce this cringe to everybody.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's going to be predictable for everybody who remembers the 2017 Oscars, but it's going to be really funny when First Man wins Best Director and then also Best Picture for 3 minutes before people realize that actually If Beale Street Could Talk will win Best Picture.
Joel,
yeah,
that is enough. We do not need to relive that. We do not need to have that come creeping back into our heads. So sit down. All right. So no, it's a great trailer. It's one of these trailers that it packs a punch. It starts out slow and just kind of builds with tension and just explodes when the title comes on screen, and it's going to be something amazing because of Barry Jenkins. I adore that man. Like, the fact that you can kind of have your kind of like big first feature type of deal with Moonlight, win an Academy Award for it. It's just like, how do you get any better than that? And so,
Well, breakthrough technically, because he had directed a movie back in 2008, I think, called Medicine for Melancholy with Wyatt Cenac from The Daily Show. And that one I've never seen. I actually don't know where that's available. I'm not entirely sure. But that was his first film. It was very, very low budget compared to something like Moonlight, though. He was able to work up to that in a big way. But yeah, that was certainly his first breakthrough. That was his breakthrough, and this is his first since gaining such a big name and winning Best Picture and screenplay and all that. So
correct. So my apologies. I mean, that's what I was kind of like alluding to, was like it was just like his first big prominent one, and he wins the most coveted award in the industry. It's still crazy, but it's inspirational, and when you look at something like this, like he has like all the motifs of his cinematography and just the way he moves his camera like he did in Moonlight. It's just like he's translating all of his skills from that movie into this one. I cannot wait for this. There's literally nothing wrong with this trailer. It is perfection, and I'm so glad we saw Moonlight, Joel, what seems like 5 years ago now, and I'm glad we are introduced to this man's vision, because he's a treasure. And if you haven't followed him on Twitter, please do so. He's very entertaining.
Yeah, he is a lovely Twitterer. It's amazing. This year we have movies from him. We have a movie from Steve McQueen, Spike Lee. We had one from Ryan Coogler. We had one from Ava DuVernay. It is the year of the black director, and I love that. All the major players, all of the major African American players in directing, besides a couple, of course, but pretty much most of them are having movies of great prominence this year, and I'm loving seeing that, because Wrinkle in Time was a disappointment, but it was interesting from a blockbuster standpoint, like literally visually. So I would love to see DuVernay do another movie like that with a better screenplay. And I was a huge fan of Black Panther, and we're about to see BlacKkKlansman, and then we have these other two at the end. It's just crazy. I love seeing that. It's a great year for that. All right, lead us into this next trailer.
So this next one is one that totally caught me off guard, and it's called Lizzie, and this one is about the infamous murders of the Borden family. Lizzie Borden, the famous song or whatever, the one that gets into your head. And this one stars Chloe Sevigny. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sevigny.
Sevigny. No, I will never ever pronounce that correctly. And then Kristen Stewart, and that's basically what the movie is. Just focuses on the murders and the Borden family, and the trailer was so great. The way it was edited and put together. It starts out slow, and I was wondering, okay, like, where's it kind of amp up with tension? Where is this energy going to come from? And then it comes out of nowhere, and from a certain point on in the trailer, I think it's, a little bit past, like, the beginning, it's nothing but, like, a roller coaster ride, and it's just a 2-minute trailer. And it completely sucked me in. I told Joel this. I told you guys this. I'm a sucker for critic quotes. I don't care how cheesy they are, unless they're just downright awkward or weird. I love when people are just like, it's the scariest thing since this. I'm like, you know what? It could be the scariest thing since that. I can't wait to see it. But no, I love this trailer. It kind of reminded me of the Hereditary trailer, where it kind of amped up its tension, spliced in between critic quotes, and there's your trailer. But it does its job. It gets you interested. It looks like there's going to be some really kind of powerful chemistry between Kristen Stewart and Chloe. And so I think this is the first time they've been in a movie together, if I'm not mistaken.
It might be, yeah. I think I have to look back through, but I think it is.
Because when I was watching them, I was like, wow, they're really great on screen together. I was like, have they been in a movie together? I don't think they have. And so just watching this, I'm just like, yeah, this was a great casting. So whoever the casting director was, good job. But this looks like a really great thriller. Nothing wrong with a movie like this. It did its job. It gets you hooked in, and it does not let go. Joel, Lizzie, what do you got?
Yeah, it's a really striking trailer. I like there seems to be a tone that they've nailed here. It's very low key, but it's also very kind of in a way unsettling, kind of an unsettling tone, and I like that a lot. I think that Stewart and Sevigny is it's a great pairing, as you said, and they look really good here. So I'm definitely a big fan of this trailer. Our next trailer is an odd one. It's a 49-second teaser for a movie called Loose. That's Luz. And this one it doesn't really tell us much about what it's about, actually. It's very much a tease in terms of the tone. But it involves a young cab driver who seems to be possessed by a demonic entity, and it involves her past at a school for girls in Chile. But that's literally all I know about it. Yeah, it's apparently it's very short. It's 70 minutes long, but it's kind of this little festival darling in some places, and it looks pretty interesting on the basis of this trailer, which really just gives us some images, disconnected images that lead us to believe that it's kind of just this crazy, weird possession movie. And I thought that it was pretty cool. I thought it was a pretty cool little teaser. I wish that they give us more, but 49 seconds for a 70-minute movie, I guess that's fair enough. So I kind of like this. I think that it looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, these types of trailers are up my alley. I'm so angry at myself that I attended Fantastic Fest once, and I probably will never go again just because I don't want to. It's because money and time, but it's going to go there as well, and that festival is in September. This looks it kind of reminds me of what was that movie I saw last year at the Dallas Film Festival, The Void, where it was like this really kind of like low budget indie, really kind of abstract type of horror. It was gory. The cinematography was luscious and beautiful. So it kind of reminded me of that, and I like that all these kind of independent filmmakers are making these weird horror films. And you know what? If you could take something as saturated as the possession genre, and you can flip it on its head and do something kind of unique with it, then I'm all on board for it. It kind of it was kind of like a mix of like The Void and maybe like a It Follows type of deal in terms of kind of like visual, cues and just the way it's directed and stuff. That's what this trailer kind of reminded me of, and I'm all down for that. But hey, within the 49 seconds, it got me. I'm all on board with these type of weird horror movies, which is a great segue, Joel, into this next one, because this movie is totally up my alley, and I am once again angry because I missed this at the film festival this year, because this played on Friday night at midnight, and I missed it, and I could have caught it. What is it, you may ask? Is it going to be the next Best Picture Oscar winner? Absolutely not. But you know what? It looks like a load of fun. This one's called Puppet Master, The Littlest Reich. Oh, God. Anyways, so this is like a bloodier version of Yoga Hosers. So get this. So I'm going to read it straight off from what the IMDb says. All hell breaks loose when a strange force animates the puppets up for auction at a convention, setting them on a bloody killing spree that's motivated by an evil as old as time, which is basically Nazis. Yeah, it reminds me of the kind of goofy campiness of a Yoga Hosers, except bloodier. And I'm all for that. I love these kind of midnight, kind of grindhouse type of horror films that could be scary 1 minute and then absolutely hilarious the next. Maybe that's just my demented mind, but this trailer totally gave me that kind of thrill that you want in these type of horror films, where it looks ridiculous, goofy, fun, and just over the top violent, where you can't really just take it seriously at all. I mean, the killers are puppets. I mean, come on. But no, this one looks pretty great. And you know what's really funny, Joel, is I like watching horror films, like old ones, new ones, slasher films. I'm all down for that. I have never seen any of the Puppet Master movies, and I'm just like, I can't believe I missed it, because when I was a teenager and I started going back and watching like all these kind of old slasher films that I missed, or even possession movies, I watched, Chucky and like the Leprechaun and stuff, and I enjoy those films and they're fun, but I never came across these. I'm kind of angry at myself now that after all these years that these movies are starting to kind of creep up on me. And when I was reading the catalog for the Dallas International Film Festival, this movie popped up, and I was like, "Oh, Puppet Master, is that part of the same franchise?" And it was, and I was like, "Hey, this looks pretty interesting." Didn't get to check it out, but after this trailer, I'm going to rent this on iTunes on a Saturday at 3 a.m. And eating a bowl of cereal or something. I don't know. It's going to be like a weird night, and I'm going to pop this in. That's what this movie's made for, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Oh, absolutely. This looks like a boatload of fun. I just the amount of gore in this trailer, and it's very much a Red Band trailer. The amount of gore in this trailer is insane. Even for something like this, it's insane. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of this. I think it looks like it just looks like a lot of fun. We have all of the movies at work. I suspect that I'm probably going to catch up with this one on DVD, not do the iTunes route, and it's certainly not going to open in theaters anywhere here. But yeah, before I see this one, I'm going to have to see the other ones. I haven't seen them either, and yeah, but I'm interested enough in this one that this certainly draws me to want to see the other ones. And it just looks like a lot of really goofy, silly, impossible to take serious fun. And yeah, so I totally agree with you. All right.
Just real quick before we get into the Stinkfest, I saw this, that the first Puppet Master opened up in 1989. I believe if I have my dates correct, that's 1 year after Child's Play. So I'm wondering if there was like some producer or someone that caught wind of like a possessed killer doll and was like, we're going to make our own, and they try to compete with it, and it came out like a year later. I don't know if that's the case. I've never read the backstory behind it, but I would not be surprised if that was why they made it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me either at all. All right, so the last trailer is the best trailer. I'm kidding. It's actually quite easily the worst trailer. And there were so few trailers that I felt like this week that I felt like we could talk about this. Seemed big enough to me. And that is the second trailer for Venom, which dropped this week, and further proved to me that we don't need this movie, that Venom does not make sense as a character that we need to follow as a protagonist, that Tom Hardy is apparently so utterly in physical or existential pain, either one, in this role that he has decided to employ an accent that I cannot place for the life of me, that the visual effects are just really rubbery and indistinctive, and just they feel completely like plasticky to me. And honestly, and I'm going to say it, and it's going to cause a lot of outrage and controversy and whatnot, but I just wish that they had decided to go back to Topher Grace and say, hey, can you play this role again? Because you had this perfect vision of the character as somebody who was fundamentally changed in terms of I felt personally that Topher Grace was terrific in this role. And the reason is because Venom, the symbiote part of it, attaches itself to someone and heightens all of their worst attributes while not changing so much about them fundamentally that they are unrecognizable. So you had the big, I've talked about it before in Spider-Man 3, you had the stretch of time where Peter Parker is affected by the symbiote and is kind of turned into this self-obsessed, emo dancer kind of version of himself, where he's just kind of some unrecognizable version of Peter Parker that still kind of keeps his normal. It's kind of hard to describe it now, 11 years later, but I just felt like it was a perfectly balanced performance, and I felt like later on when Topher Grace took over as this character who just really wants to kill Peter, that when the symbiote took over him, what Topher Grace did was he didn't change the performance so drastically he just kind of shifted it into being something a little more pathetic, and I thought that was and vaguely menacing, but mostly pathetic, and I thought that was the most the biggest draw for me to that kind of performance. Here, though, it just seems like Tom Hardy doesn't know what he's doing in this role in general, and it feels to me like he's just kind of picking a random accent out of his hat and putting it on, and then he's kind of stuck in this mocap suit, what I assume is a mocap suit, and then he's doing this weird voice that sounds just exactly like his character, filtered through like auto tune, heavy auto tune, kind of, with a lot of garbles and stuff in the background. It just this movie looks awful. It just looks like a disaster to me. It looks visually ugly. The director is Ruben Fleischer, who has still only made one good movie, and that is Zombieland, which I have a feeling was probably more the fault of the screenwriters, with Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Great pairing, and I think that Zombieland worked because of them. I'm no longer convinced that it really worked because of Fleischer, because 30 minutes or 30 minutes or less kind of sucked. Gangster Squad was, as Mark Dusek put it, all dressed up with nowhere to go, and I just don't like. I think that he just has this very empty style, and this movie looks like it's continuing that. And I just, it's going to be rated R. That's cool. That's fine. But it's also got to be good. And I just don't think that this looks good. I'm keeping my mind open. Obviously I always do that. But yeah, as of right now, it does not look promising to me.
You know what? I love this genre, and I will give anything in this genre a chance. Comic book movies, I, for the most part, will see like as much as I can, so I can get well versed in the genre and kind of expand my horizons. I have never minded so much that Venom was going to be a main character. It could have been an interesting spin on it, because we've seen Spider-Man tackle Spider-Man so many times. I was excited to kind of see them do a guy that's kind of caught in this unfortunate situation, and now he has this thing that's using him as a host, and it could be very psychological and just really kind of adult and violent. I mean, it could have been something. When Joel and I talked about the first trailer, I did not like it. And I was like, okay, that's not really a good trailer. I wasn't really feeling it. It just looks really manufactured to me. It just doesn't really feel like it has any type of visual style to it. So I was like, okay, whatever. The second trailer comes out, and Joel and I will never really talk about a second trailer unless it actually is different from the first trailer. I must say, I never thought a second trailer would be worse than the already bad first trailer. I don't know what it is about this trailer or this movie in general, but everything feels off. Whether it's about Tom Hardy and his casting and his weird American accent, or the fact that he's playing a quote-unquote reporter. He's not. You have the fake looking kind of staged acting. It doesn't even look like it's in a real city. It looks just so sitcom-y. It looks really weird. And then on top of that, Venom's voice is awful. And every time when he spoke in the trailer, I'm like, how do people in this universe look at that and take it seriously? I really don't know. And there were so many awkward lines that were delivered from him as he was, covering around Tom Hardy with the whole, it's like a turd rolling in the wind. It's like, who wrote this? I just how in what universe is that line threatening? What? Listen, I thought the first trailer was bad, but this trailer just confirmed to me that this is going to be bad. I will keep a small open mind when I watch it, because maybe it was just bad marketing. But I can't really say that because I'm assuming if Sony is smart, they probably use the same trailer houses to cut their stuff together. And the Spider-Man Homecoming trailer was great, so why can't this be great? So I always give movies a chance in the comic book genre, but Joel, these two trailers are making it very, very hard for me to even want to even see this at a matinee price. I don't know, man. It's gonna be because we're gonna be reviewing it on the show, and I'm just we're gonna look back on these episodes and we're gonna be like, man, we were really harsh on those trailers. It was great, or man, this kind of confirmed our anticipation for it because it was just awful. So yeah,
hopefully it's not even worse than it looks. But,
oh God, can you imagine if it's actually
oh
worse
boy.
than this trailer?
Then it's going to be like basically one of the absolute worst movies of the year.
It's just going to be Venom doing stand-up with awful lines. He's just going to be standing in front of a brick wall and just like talking.
And what kind of things does Michelle Williams need to pay off in order to be in this? I don't understand that.
Same with Woody Harrelson, same with Tom Hardy. Who's blackmailing these people? Riz Ahmed? Who are you being blackmailed by? Please let me know. I'm going to call the cops.
Jenny Slate is in this.
Yeah, even Jenny Slate's talented. It's like, why is she even in it?
Yeah. If she, as long as maybe she could be in character as her character from Parks and Rec. What was her name?
Yes,
be great.
The sister of the
yeah,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I forgot her name. Okay, so that is it on our trailers, guys. Obviously, our favorite one was Venom. And
please do not say that with a straight face, or in this case, a straight voice. Like just you need to drop the sarcasm out and tell people what we really think about them.
Oh yeah, no,
it's actually the best trailer of the year, Joel. Get it correct.
Exactly. No, our favorite trailer was easily If Beale Street Could Talk.
Easily.
That thing looks amazing, and I can't wait. All right, so let's get into our review. This main review is going to be for Blindspotting, and this is the feature debut of three people in certain capacities. It is the feature directorial debut of Carlos Lopez Estrada, and it is the feature screenwriting debuts of Daveed Diggs and Rafael Casal, who also star in the main roles of the film, which definitely gives off the feeling of a Ben Affleck-Matt Damon pairing to me, which I'm really hoping translates to Oscars, because that would be great. And I will tell you why I think that's great. So this one is about a couple of friends, Colin and Miles, played by Diggs and Casal, respectively. They are workers at they work for a moving company. Colin is about a year out of jail. He's 3 days away from his probation ending, and Miles is just kind of his fellow driver. Sometimes one will drive and the other will ride, and so forth. And so on the fourth night from the end of his probation, Colin is driving down the road and witnesses a questionable police shooting that we also witness. He witnesses the entire thing, though. The running up of the victim, the pursuit of the officer, and in his big giant mirror on the side of his truck, the shooting in the back of that gentleman who happens to be African American, and of course the police officer is white. Now, you might think from the trailers that this is the story of the movie, that there's going to be some sort of main, narrative through line that speaks to justice for the victim, or something like that, because that would certainly make sense to today's kind of political and social climate. And while this movie does kind of touch on that a little bit, it's mostly in the background, because what the story of this movie is kind of a movie about trauma. It's a movie about trauma because Colin is obviously upset by this particular event. He is later kind of confronted by that whenever a cop car comes by, or whenever he hears a siren or or anything sort of popping that sounds like a gun, anything like that. It's very much a movie about that kind of trauma, dealing with it, confronting it, and it's also about friendship because Colin and Miles are kind of this. They've been friends since childhood, much like Diggs and Casal themselves have been friends since childhood. And this movie is basically about this friendship and how this event kind of comes to define for them what a friendship with the other one means. So there's really not much of a plot, so to speak. It's really just kind of this interesting character study in the vein of. Well, I'm trying to think of what it's like, but I can't really think of what it's like. Actually,
if I had to
it's
summarize,
not really like anything.
It's a character study on a man in today's times.
On a black man in today's times. Very much
exactly.
So
all the kind of like social stuff that goes along in our society that's just topsy turvy right now. This movie addresses that, and it's just about this one guy kind of going through it. He kind of weaves in and out of everything.
And in doing so, he kind of reckons with this friendship that he's kind of always taken for granted, and we get a lot of exploration of that friendship through their interactions with other people, and along the way we kind of learn a little bit about their past. We learn about what put Colin in jail, for instance, which is an event that actually has a lot of layers, and it's one of the main reasons why there is absolutely nothing simple about this movie. This movie is about all of the complex layers of living in Oakland, California right now as a black man, which obviously Chase and I don't understand that, but I think that we can grasp it from this movie that maybe it's dramatized a little bit, but it certainly feels very, very mirrored to reality. And so, not to get into major spoiler territory, but the event in the past that put Colin in jail is this horrifying incident involving when they were bouncers at a restaurant, or not bouncers, but kind of doormen at a restaurant, and a particularly annoying customer who, kind of ruffles Colin's feathers at the wrong moment using the wrong words, and stuff goes down. The movie does not let him off for this. It does not say that he was innocent of this, although there's an interesting juxtaposition here because, and I think that our friend Mark, just to mention him again, is right in that in his review when he pointed out that this is a movie about juxtapositions and dualities. So you have in the opening scene, in the credits scene, I should say, a vision of Oakland in split screens, and so you have the various kind of economical the economic divides between the hipsters who arrive in the city, as they're called in the movie, the hipsters who arrive in the city just to get jobs or to settle down briefly, and then the people who were born and bred there, much like Colin and Miles have been. And so you get this split screen imagery that sometimes seems like it's perfectly aligned with each other, because as in all pretty much all neighborhoods, life sometimes it aligns with the lives in other economically better neighborhoods than this particular ghetto in Oakland, as we see in comparison to some of the areas that are not ghettos, that are just kind of suburbs but are still predominantly Oakland. And so this is very much a portrait of Oakland, much more so than I think the recent Sorry to Bother You was, although both were set there, and I think that that's fairly significant, that we have two movies in the same month that are set in Oakland. It's really interesting, for sure. And so the juxtapositions kind of travel elsewhere, because in this incident, both Colin and Miles are definitely involved, but I think that one could make a comparison, or make not a comparison, a a case, make a case that Miles is the one who is more at fault in this particular situation. There was one person involved that kind of acted out of aggression, sudden aggression, and there was another character who decided to aid and abet that aggression in a way that only made it worse, and that person is Miles. But you notice that Colin went to jail, and Miles either did and it was very short, or didn't actually go to jail at all, because we have mentions in this narrative of the fact that Miles has come to visit Colin many, many times over the course of his year-long, I think it was a year, or was it a year? I think it was a year. Anyway, in jail. And now that he's out, he's on this probation that, he has a curfew that he's got to make it back by, otherwise he'll be arrested again. And so then later there's another juxtaposition, kind of in a more new. Everything about this movie is nuanced, but it's actually an even more nuanced scene. So to kind of set it up, to give you an idea of what this movie is like, there's a scene where they're driving a truck, one of their trucks, they're headed to a move, and they park, or they're about to leave. I'm sorry, they're about to leave from a move, and they park, and they're parked, and there's this guy who parks in front of them, right in front of their truck. So much so that they can't back up because there's something behind them, and they can't go forward because this truck is here. So Colin is at the wheel. Miles leans over to the driver's seat and pulls the truck horn, that big gigantic siren or not siren, but kind of a horn thing that makes the big annoying noise to tell people you're there. It's really obvious. But unfortunately, the driver of the other car is on his phone and not paying attention. He's getting stuff out of his car while also still being on the phone. He's only doing it one-handed. And it's really annoying Miles in particular. And so Miles leans over, honks the car horn, screams and curses at him to get out of the way. The guy isn't paying attention. And then later on we learn that there has been a complaint set against a black man with dreads who was honking a horn and yelling. But that's Colin and not Miles. And so you get this feeling that, yes, right now in our society, this is what it's like for a black man in America. To be confused for the person who was the aggressor in a situation that was entirely not their fault, and to be sent a complaint about it. That is, as much as it is, being a black man in fear of police, this is what it's like for a black person in America, is to be, so like, immediate pressure is put on you to perform as well as a white person. Immediate, paranoia at what you're doing at all times. Immediate, suspicion of some sort of crime. And so this movie is, or some sort of wrongdoing, if it's not a crime, something wrong, basically. So, this movie is such a compassionate understanding of this world that we live in right now, through the eyes of these two characters. And they're such original, inspiring characters. We have Colin, who is this complex individual who really just kind of wants to get through these last days of his probation and then put it all behind him. Try to find another job, something that isn't something as menial as, moving stuff from, one house to the garbage or whatever, they do in this job. And in the meantime, he's having to deal with this trauma of having witnessed a police shooting and being frightened every time he sees a police car. And then you have Miles, who is also a really complex character. He's, prone to violence. He's kind of put up this air of the white guy who wants to act like the black people in the neighborhood. Of course, he's grown up in that neighborhood. So he's kind of slowly appropriated the culture of his surrounding peers. He has the grills in his teeth. He's got the walk that are the walk and the clothing, the accessories that are stereotypically of a black person in the ghetto. He has kind of borrowed all of those for his own style, and you come to understand that it's at the very heart of his own insecurities about himself. And ultimately, the movie is about them kind of confronting each other's friendship, each person's friendship with the other, what it means in the big picture, what it means to each of them personally, and what it means to those around them. And guys, this movie is just it's just incredible. It's some of the most invigorating filmmaking I've seen in a long, long time. From a first-time director, I mean, this has been a theme this year of great first films, and this might be, at least for me so far this year, the best. I think I can solidly say that um it's got this style that sort of reminded me of early days Spike Lee in certain ways. There's this way that the characters talk that's kind of very theatrical, but also not so, playing so hard to the room. It's also two really good performances at the center. In fact, really good is understating it. These two people both need to be nominated for Best Actor, I think. And Diggs in particular has this scene near the end when he is finally able to confront the source of his trauma. That is, well, one, some of the fastest rapping I've ever heard, which you'll all have to discover why there's rapping at the end of this movie. But also just a terrific, really like emotionally charged scene of confrontation of not only trauma, but the ideas that come along with that. In terms of what this movie is trying to say. And it's just absolutely amazing. The cinematography is beautiful. There's this use of the colors, of several colors in this movie, red in particular, that is absolutely amazing. There's a nightmare sequence is probably the most terrifying thing I think I've seen all year, just about. And you know what I'm talking about, right, Chase?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that thing is absolutely just terrifying, and yeah, it's amazing. And then this it's just an incredible kind of kaleidoscopic vision of life in Oakland, but also just kind of life in general. It really does ultimately move even to the broader spectrums of what it's trying to explore. It's very specific, but it's also very universal in terms of kind of universal, but still specific to the black experience in America, where again, you're just constantly in suspicion for everything that you do, and I just think that it's such a rich exploration of that without trying to become one gigantic sermon. That's the key. Is I don't think it's a sermon at all, and I think that is what makes this movie work so well. To get into some of the specifics, I think again, Diggs and Casal are great. Ethan Embry has a great role as the cop. He only has a small appearance. Again, this is not a movie about the shooting itself, but about the aftermath for one particular person. But Ethan Embry plays that cop, and he does a terrific job. You have, I think her name is Janina Pavankar. I probably butchered that, but she plays Val, who is not only the boss of the moving company, but also Colin's ex-girlfriend, who was also witness to the event that sent him to jail and no longer wants really anything to do with him other than professionally. And she's great. She has a very meaty role. It's not just your typical girlfriend role. She's very involved in the story. And, just to kind of sum it up, the most amazing thing about this movie, to me, is the fact that Diggs and Casal wrote the screenplay, and the the original first draft is responsible for 90% of what we see on screen. They went in and made changes to, some of the references and some of the timeline stuff. They started writing it 9 years ago, so some of the stuff is going to be a little out of date if they actually use their first draft. But they updated stuff to be more 2018, and it was just it's an incredible coup to have most of a first draft be something like this, because I honestly think that so far this year, it's the best screenplay of the year. That I'm just going to say it. I think that it is the best structured. I think that it gives some of the richest dialogue of the year, and some of the most regionally specific too. It's amazing what they're able to do and make it sound like it comes from Oakland. I mean, of course they're from Oakland, so it's easy, but it really does sound like all of them live and breathe in Oakland, and it becomes this living, breathing place because of that. And where I felt like that was something that Sorry to Bother You struggled with. It felt like it could have kind of been set in any city, but this one makes Oakland very much a specific part of its tapestry, and I love that. And I just love this movie. It also has a really good original song that we hear over the credits that's performed by Diggs Casal. There's also E40, who's like a big time rapper. Big time rapper. And there's a fourth person, but I don't know who it is. But in any case, that song's really good. Just everything about this movie works. Every single tiny nuance. It's not a subtle movie. It doesn't need to be, because it's about very unsubtle things. It's very, very blunt about what it's trying to say. But there's a heck of a lot of nuance here. And I think that that the nuance comes from just how many layers and details and ideas there are present in this filmmaking and storytelling. And I just love this movie. And guys, I rarely do it, but I'm going with an A+ this time. This movie knocked me sideways, and I loved it. I think it's certainly one of the most striking film feature directorial debuts in a while. I think that Carlos Lopez Estrada should just direct one movie a year if that's possible. Please make it happen. And I loved every single inch of this thing. Expect it high on my list at the end of the year, folks. And yeah, A+ for me.
Man, that was quite a spiel. I mean, I really felt convinced that you were telling me it's a good movie, because it definitely is. You thought I was going the other way. No, it's one of those movies that when you watch it, it lingers with you, and to me, that is the sign of something great in the making, and definitely a great sign of me readjusting my top 5, because as of right now, this is number 2 behind Hereditary, which, ironically, both of those films both feature debuts.
Yeah.
Holy crap. So, what Carlos Estrada does is he strikes a match, watches it burn, and then when the flame is out, the smoke goes off of the tip of the match, and then the movie is done. That's how I would describe this movie in its intensity throughout the entire run. Keeps you on edge, keeps you alert, and then when the movie is done, you're kind of in awe. And that's exactly how a match is structured. You strike that thing, let the flame burst, let the light of the flame entrance you, bring you in, intrigue you. And then when it's done, you're kind of in awe at what you just saw. And so when we saw the trailer to this movie, like Joel and I even said, like, man, this looks pretty good. It looks like it's going to balance like humor and drama. It looks like it's going to be something really different that we don't really get to see much of anymore. And so I got to tell you, the trailer does not do this movie justice. This movie is actually even better than its marketing, and I don't know how many people are going to see this movie, but Joel is putting it up on a pedestal, and I'm going to do the same thing as well. before I start breaking this down, I am not one to call predictions in August, but I'm going to say there is a 95% chance that this script will be nominated for original screenplay, and there is a 5%, because we haven't seen the rest of the movies this year, granted, but there is a 5% chance it will win. And I would not be surprised if this was this year's Get Out, where it's going to maybe, hopefully get nominated for stuff, but it'll probably run away with the original screenplay, which is definitely a high honor, given that most of the people behind the scenes have not worked on a big scale like this before. The only issue I have with this movie, believe it or not, Joel, and audience out there, when you're going to credit Wayne Knight in the opening credits and he's in one scene, I get really angry. He was not in the movie, like at all. So he has one scene that he's done. I'm like, did he deserve a spot in the credits? Come on now. I'm serious. That's my only complaint. I think everything else about this is it's quite magical. So if I wanted to kind of start with Estrada, like kind of this world that he paints, Joel is 100% correct. And I think it's just a kind of a great time that we're living in. The fact that we're seeing Sorry to Bother You, Blindspotting, and now Black Klansman next week, like all back to back, is just it's so great. But with Sorry to Bother You, as much as I like that movie, the city that it was in, Joel is correct. It could have been literally any city, and I would have never known. In Blindspotting, you feel like these are real people in the moment, on these streets, in these buildings. This is a breathable character within itself, and that would be the city that they inhabited. It feels dirty. It feels grimy. It feels nice in some parts. You can feel the sweat off of these, actors as if they're in a real breathing place. It brings the movie so much more to life when you have a breathing, living character such as your setting. And I think that's a great way to kind of, spring off what you're trying to do, because Joel is also correct. This doesn't really have like a set story. What this movie kind of focuses on is one guy's trauma and basically a slice of life between like him and his friend, him and his mom, him and, former girlfriends, him, looking at himself and reflecting on the incident that put him in jail. There's a lot of interaction between characters in different relationships, and we kind of just see this guy's viewpoint in life, this guy's slice of life, and how he deals with the trauma and how it bleeds into the relationships that he has. And so everything is on point from Cassell and Diggs when it comes to the script. Everything is airtight. It is sharp. It is, as Joel says, very blunt in your face, because it is, but it's also very nuanced, where there's a lot of stuff that, yes, is in your face, but then there's also some smaller stuff that might be in passing, and you would never notice it unless you're, like, looking out for it. Where, case in point, there's one scene where I think it is Diggs and Cassell, and they pass by a police recruiting banner, and it is a banner with a black man on it, and it says, diversity in the police force. And that's kind of ironic, because this movie has an incident where we have a white cop killing a black civilian, and it's just like, that's just crazy. And I can actually vouch for that, because I actually work for the police department, and they do stuff like that. And it is very weird to me, considering there are some people that put a bad name on police departments with some of the stupid things they do. And it's just that's the world we live in. But that's what's so great about this movie, is that it pinpoints small stuff like that. It pinpoints bigger stuff, and it hits you in the face, not in an aggressive way, where the director's like, hey, preach, 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 here's my message. This is not some type of movie where it just like sits up on a pedestal and just thinks it's more important than it actually is, and just doesn't have any substance to what it's saying. That is completely false. This movie is on point with everything that it does, and it never feels overly aggressive in its messaging, which is fantastic. And that the ending monologue from Diggs, Not going to say where it's at, but it's an ending monologue. Well, I guess I kind of gave that away because, in the end. But, I mean, you don't know where it's at. That is one of the most impressive ways to end your movie that I've seen all year. And if they do get nominated for an original screenplay, that is the clip they're going to use. They're either going to use that or they're going to use when him and Cassell have a fight behind a building.
Yeah. That scene is amazing.
It's great because it's once again, it's just about characters reflecting on their relationships with people. And, when you have one person who's very insecure and acts tougher than he actually is, and you have someone that was actually in the pen, comes out as a better man, and he realizes the mistakes he made, which Joel is correct, by the way. This movie never forgives him for what he did. It's just a more having the audience like, are you going to be the type of person that forgives this guy? Or are you just going to be like, oh, no, he did something bad in the past type of deal? So that's also kind of reflective on us as people. Like, are we just realized like this guy like did something awful. Like throughout this journey that we follow him on, can he redeem himself in front of our eyes, and can he change? And throughout the end, he does. And we realize that he's a changed person now. But what was I saying? Oh yeah. Anyways, you like you said, you have his friend who's very insecure, and then you have him who's dealing with trauma, but also trying to be a better person. It was just such a raw and in the moment scene where he's fighting with his friend, and it's just you feel that, and it's stuff like that. It's all these scenes comprised of those type of moments just strung together in this kind of like slice of life movie. And not everything is powerful. Believe it or not, I know a lot of people are going to be like, man, this is a really powerful movie. It's intense. And that's true. But you know what? This is a really funny movie. There's a lot of lighter kind of like moments between Cassell and Diggs, or Cassell is a comedic powerhouse. He really is. Like he knows how to command the screen, and he's got great comedic timing, and so does Diggs. But I think Cassell is a little bit more at it with the comedy than Diggs. But it's actually really funny, and I think that's what's so great about this movie is that it goes to my slice of life argument, because at one point you could be sitting there laughing at whatever Cassell says, and then the next scene you're on the edge of your seat, either angry or maybe you're shedding a tear. Like that's the type of shifts it does in this movie, and it's not one of these movies that hops tones and doesn't make sense. It makes sense because it feels like life. That's how life is. One moment you're laughing, one moment you're angry, one moment you're crying, and then literally the next day you're fine. I mean, it's the roller coaster of emotions. That is how we operate as humans, and that's how this movie is approached. And that's what's so great about it, because it doesn't feel fake. It feels in the moment and raw. And I honestly, and I know I made that Wayne Knight joke, I don't have any issues with this. It's one of those movies that I saw almost a week ago. I think it is a revolutionary type of movie where I think it's going to be talked about for many, 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 many years. And it could be, by the end of the year, this could be the movie that defines this year. We don't know yet, but it's a very strong contender for that. So, and just to kind of put a little cherry on top of this review Sunday, Joel is also correct. Just like with Sorry to Bother You, Blindspotting also has a killer soundtrack in its credits. And it was definitely a song that where when my girlfriend and I were done watching the movie, we just kind of sat there and listened, and we're like, man, these are some talented guys. It's just crazy. So, you know what? I always tell you guys, I would never give an A+ unless I meant it, unless I felt it. The past 2 years, when I saw Moonlight in 2016, I felt it. I felt like that movie deserved that extra plus bump. When I saw Logan last year, I thought that was kind of a game changer in the genre, and it deserved the bump. I was going to already give this an A, but the more I thought about it, the more it's the type of movie that latches onto you, never lets go, and it spreads its awesomeness like just all over you, and you think about it, and That ending monologue, I'm telling you, watch out for it. Guys, I'm going to give Blindspotting an A+. And as of right now, it is my second favorite movie of the year, right behind Hereditary, just because I have a soft spot for horror. Joel knows that. But I think these are... I mean, I had to kick out like 2 movies, by the way. And so that just shows you how good this is. If this movie doesn't get recognized for awards, I don't want to say I'll quit the podcast, but I mean, I will make some bold bet like that, because it's just one of those movies that it catches you off guard. And I think everyone, just like with Sorry to Bother You, I was kind of feeding off the audience a little bit and just kind of see how everyone was reacting. And everyone was either laughing or crying or like intensely into it. And so I really like the theater going experience as well. And I think if I can see other people experience that, then I'm comfortable telling you guys that I think you'll experience the same thing they did, I did, and Joel did.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think that you're right with the Get Out comparison, because in terms of the Oscars, just because very similarly they kind of juggle urgency with humor. And I think that they're both kind of uncomfortably funny because of that. They are, it's really and Sorry to Bother You did a solid job of that too. Just not as notably as these other 2 did. And I'm the guy who certainly, if you want to make the comparison that Blindspotting is this year's Get Out, I think that Blindspotting is the better movie. And I think that if Get Out can get nominations in those particular categories, this one should, in the exact same ones. It's just such strong work.
Joel, I have to say one last thing before you get to your surprise review. I have ragged on this studio for what it seems like for 20 years now, because I always thought they were just in the Nicolas Cage business. But you know what? I gotta give credit to Lionsgate. They actually pumped out a really great movie, because usually they're the ones that pump out the direct-to-DVD nonsense with either Nick Cage or Nick Cage, and it's like, are they going to make anything good? And this is also from the company Summit, who produced the Twilight movies. So I'm like, hey, make more movies like this. So I really hope they make more like this down the road, and not more Nicolas Cage movies, Joel. That's all I ask.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to move on to my extra review, which is for Christopher Robin. This one is the new movie from director Mark Forster, who might have done a couple of big budget movies like Quantum of Solace and World War Z, but about 14 years ago made a pretty lovely little movie called Finding Neverland with Johnny Depp as J.M. Barrie. And now he kind of takes a similar-ish approach to, kind of legendary childhood, fiction with the stories of Christopher Robin and his friends in the 100 Acre Wood, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, Owl, Eeyore, all of them. And this one finds Christopher Robin, and of course you always have to refer to him as Christopher Robin, and not just Christopher, because that's how Winnie the Pooh says it. But it finds Christopher Robin as an adult. He has long since said farewell to his friends. And now he's an adult who kind of lives this, comfortable but kind of dull life as an executive at a luggage efficiency company, and is married to Evelyn. By the way, adult Christopher Robin is played by Ewan McGregor. His wife Evelyn is played by Haley Atwell, and they have a daughter played by Bronte Carmichael, who's a real find. So meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in the 100 Acre Wood, Winnie the Pooh wakes up one day to find that his honey jar is empty and that all of his friends are kind of gone. They just have left or disappeared. And he travels through his little portal to Christopher Robin's new house and employs him to help him find his friends. And so they go back, and that's essentially the story. But there's also another one that I'm going to talk about. They're kind of 2 main plots here, but this is the stuff that works. The reacquainting us with the characters, all of them. I think that Christopher Robin is still quite a likable and just a likable character. He's likable. He's he's us basically in this scenario, and he created the characters of the 100-Acre Wood from his own mind, and thus, extensions of his personality. Winnie the Pooh represents his childhood wonder. Eeyore represents his pragmatism, almost to a cynical degree, though not quite. Tigger's kind of his rambunctious, fun-loving side. Piglet is the one that's scared, and all of that. It's very clear what they represent within Christopher Robin. And okay, so all of this stuff works in the early sections as we get reacquainted with everybody in this world. And then here's where the problem happens. They make Winnie the Pooh and the others real characters, not ones that are specifically tied to his imagination, because they interact with other characters, and by the end there's a big chase scene, or sort of a chase scene, and I'll get to that, what that is later. But yeah, that's a major problem, because it fails to convey that if Christopher Robin grows up, Winnie the Pooh and everybody else needs to as well. There's a problem with this movie at a fundamental level, and that problem is the fact that Winnie the Pooh, Eeyore, Tigger, and all of them have remained the same these many, many years that they've been together, and they have the same outlooks on life. They are they're the same, whereas Christopher Robin has changed. Now, of course, he's still Christopher Robin fundamentally. So all of the stuff that led him to create those characters in his mind in his youth have stayed there. But he's also seen the world. He's been in the real world. He said goodbye to his past, and now he has a series of changes in his everyday thinking of life. As an adventure is no longer a luxury that he can afford with a family. He has not conveyed to his daughter, for instance, that fun is a thing that you can have, and that presents a problem, because she is just kind of this girl who loves work. She loves doing schoolwork. She has no idea how to play outside. All of that. It's rather moving. But then the movie introduces this whole other plot, and this is kind of getting into semi-spoiler territory. But whatever the case, I have to talk about it if it's an important part of the movie. But in any case, a big part of this plot has Christopher Robin trying to save his company. The company, his boss is kind of this person who likes to go golfing instead of doing work. Haha, I wonder who that's supposed to be. And so he's kind of given this weekend assignment of figuring out how to cut 20% from the company. And that includes people, obviously the workforce and other kind of costs. And he's given this weekend assignment to do it. He brings his papers along while his family is away. And when Winnie the Pooh takes him back to the 100-Acre Wood to look for his friends, his papers are lost. His papers are left there, and the animals have to bring it back to him, and that means that they have to kind of employ the daughter to help them out. And this means that there's a weird institution of plot in the last act of this movie that feels completely at odds with everything before it. And I feel like it's potentially because there are so many writers involved. The original draft of this screenplay was written by Alex Ross Perry, of all people, the guy who did Queen of Earth and Listen Up, Philip. Really good movies that are completely separate from this one, but have a similar kind of melancholy about them. Certainly channeled into something else, but something other than this. But in any case, I think that Alex Ross Perry probably did much of the first act of this movie, and then you had Tom McCarthy come in. He's the screenwriter of Spotlight, and you never know who does what in these screenplays. But I have a feeling that for McCarthy, and for Allison Schroeder, who was the screenwriter of Hidden Figures. I mean, good screenwriters here. I think that the later additions to the screenwriter kind of committee probably instituted this whole like useless plot involving the saving of a company that seems entirely separate from, or not entirely, but almost completely separate from the lesson that Christopher Robin has to learn. He has to learn more about his family, and I feel like they put too much emphasis on him trying to save his company, and so it kind of makes the movie into a near miss. The performances are solid. I think McGregor is quite good here as an older Christopher Robin. Like I said, Bronte Carmichael as the daughter is a nice find. If she is indeed a find, I don't know if she's been in anything else. And I think that Haley Atwell really tries, but isn't really given anything to do. But the real treasure of this movie in terms of its casting is the most perfect voice possible for Eeyore, who has this very, very low kind of a baritone. And they've chosen Brad Garrett, who was on Everybody Loves Raymond. He's the big, tall guy with a really deep voice, and he's perfect as Eeyore. He captures the tone. He has perfect comic timing, even with the slow drawl. It's great casting, and of course, Jim Cummings pretty much always has voiced Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, and he does so here. You have Toby Jones as Owl. It's a lot of good voice work. So the production is solid. The visual effects are pretty outstanding for the creatures in this movie, and for the animals, I should say. And so that's all great. But I think that there's a problem with the movie's priorities. I think that it kind of ends up not really knowing what to do with the characters of the 100 Acre Wood, because it decides that they're real, rather than again conveying that Christopher Robin created these characters in his mind. By making them real, it just makes them kind of cogs in an adventure plot, and it just feels a little bit like they're undercutting their effect. And so, yeah, I think it's an okay movie. It's certainly a lot of people are going to think about it much higher than I do, but yeah, I'm giving Christopher Robin a C+. It's an admirable letdown, and that's about it. It looks good. It plays well. There's amusing stuff, but there's fundamental misgivings here, and I think it lets the movie down. And on that note, I assume that this is one that you're probably not going to see.
I mean, you and I are around the same age, so we grew up with Winnie the Pooh. It just never looked like I had to go see it in a theater where it's this looks like a great, comfortable rental.
Yeah, I can totally. I honestly see that maybe you'd be more on board for this than me. But yeah, it was a bit of a letdown. On that note, guys, it's time to report on the box office news.
No, it's not, because I'm always awful at this. It is not box office time because I'm going to embarrass myself.
Now that we can get much more into having Chase embarrass himself, let's get into the box office news.
Well, apparently, according to all the conservatives online, I've already embarrassed myself well enough this week, so I guess let's keep on going, right?
Right, exactly. So your hints this week for the wide releases that might be in the top 5 but are definitely in the top 10, you have Christopher Robin, The Darkest Minds, and The Spy Who Dumped Me. And that is it. So take it away, sir. And remember what movies recently, because we keep forgetting about one. Just, So yeah.
Yeah, that one. All right, so I'm not going to make that same mistake again. Okay, so if we're dealing with Christopher Robin, which is Disney, we're dealing with Darkest Minds, YA novel, and we're dealing with a buddy comedy. Obviously, I shouldn't even say obviously, because even if Fallout dipped 50%, it still would be above probably Christopher Robin. You know what? I'm gonna start from the bottom or top go to the bottom. I'm gonna say number 1 is Mission Impossible Fallout. 2 is Christopher Robin. 3 Hotel Transylvania 3. 4 The Spy Who Dumped Me. 5 The Equalizer 2.
You were closer than I thought. You were closer than I thought. So, first of all, I kind of happily tricked you.
No! Did Death of a Nation make it into the top 5, Joel?
No.
Hold on. Am I going to have a stroke live on air?
I didn't. I'll never trick you like that. No, I tricked you in that Hotel Transylvania 3 is out of the top 5, although it is number 6.
Well, it was close.
Yeah, that's true. Number 5 is indeed The Equalizer 2, though. It dropped from number 3.
Nice.
And it made $8.8 million. People are still seeing this movie for some reason. It has a total domestic gross of $79.9 million and a worldwide gross of $87.6, and it has a $62 million budget. So I don't know if we're going to be seeing an Equalizer 3.
Question is, do we need one?
Do we need one? Exactly. Number 4 is Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. It dropped from number 2 to number 4.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, so these movies that we don't see, it's just like they don't exist, basically. It made $9.1 million. It has a total domestic gross of $91.3 and a worldwide total of $230.5, and it has a $75 million budget. Yeah, this thing is doing well. I mean, it's basically already justified itself, I think. Let me think. So 70, yeah, pretty much. I would say maybe it's $20 million away from that. I'd say it probably has to make about $250. So worldwide, yeah, it's doing really well. Maybe in 2028 we'll see Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again. Okay, so number 3 is The Spy Who Dumped Me with $12.4 million. And that's, of course, its debut. It has a budget of $40 million. It'll do well on streaming. I'm not worried about this one. Number 2 is indeed Christopher Robin with $25 million. It doesn't have a listed budget because Disney has come to not list their budgets anymore. It has a worldwide total of 29.8 and a domestic total of 25. So I think that it's doing pretty well. We just don't know how much it costs. That's the problem. And number 1, yes, Mission Impossible Fallout with $35 million. This is awesome. Total domestic gross of $124.5 and a worldwide total of $329.5 at a $178 million budget. So it's already doing well. It's already doing well despite that kind of budget, which was probably all spent on the helicopters at the end of the movie. I'm assuming, and Tom Cruise. All right, so other news. The Darkest Minds completely tanked. It opened at number 8 with $5.8 million, and it has a $34 million budget. So we're not going to be seeing, and I actually looked up the name, we're not going to be seeing a Never Fade adaptation in this series because, yeah, that's not going to happen. Otherwise, let's see. Unfriended Dark Web suddenly dropped 86%, but that's because it lost like 1,000 theaters, so I guess that's not a huge deal. Plus, that movie has a $1 million budget, and it's made $8 million, so they're doing well. Let's see. There are really no other big drops, honestly, but there are some pretty hefty rises. 8th Grade rose from number 14 to number 12. It rose 126.2%. And it made $2.9 million this week. That's awesome news. It has $6 million. Let's see. McQueen, a documentary about Alexander McQueen. It's in its 3rd week, and it rose 117.7% and it made $181,000 this week. It's pretty cool. The little movie Puzzle with, I think it's Kelly MacDonald and Irfan Khan, rose 110.1% this week. And then the big one, because they added 10 theaters, I'm assuming because somebody got fed up and wanted it to finally make $700 million.
Whoa. Hey, before you call me out online like that, it's a great achievement, Joel. It's a great achievement.
It is. It's a great achievement. It rose 1,300%, and that is Black Panther. From 72 to 33, it made $35,000, and it finally passed the $700 million mark.
Jeez, finally, now we can stop talking about it. I mean, I will stop talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Another cool thing is to talk about this weekend's other review is Blindspotting might have dropped 48.5%, but it also rose, it dropped in placement, but it's still in the top 20, and that is at number 18. So made 660,000 of people can just go see this movie, dag nabbit. It'll be great. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the box office news this week. No other big pieces of news. I will say that I'm a bit disappointed. Teen Titans Go to the Movies dropped 53% and from number 5 to number 10, but it only has a $10 million budget, so it's got $23 million worldwide, and I'm okay with that ultimately. So, still doing fairly well. And also Death of a Nation opened at number 13 with 2.3 million. This thing tanked horrifically. And I don't know what the future is for Mr. D'Souza in terms of what his movies make, if he's going to make any more of them. It's
the Hitler's America movie topped out at almost 13.1 million, which is insane to me. That's too much money.
That's too much money. Exactly. Yeah. By the way, Three Identical Strangers made $1 million this week. Which is pretty crazy. It's at 8 million, so I'm really happy to see that. Won't You Be My Neighbor is at 21 million after another weekend of 495,000. That's pretty much it, I think. Oh, and then A20. Oh no, also one of the best movies of the year finally opened. That's the Miseducation of Cameron Post. Opened in 2 theaters and made $53,000. In fact, it is, I think, yes, it is the highest per theater average of the week. Just barely over Puzzle, which had 5 theaters and $25,000 per theater. So, yeah, really good news for Cameron Post. We both love that, and it comes out in wider release throughout the month. I don't think it has a Dallas release date yet. That's actually why I reviewed it this weekend on my website, because I don't think that there's really any word yet of a Dallas release, but it's, I think, opening a little wider this coming Friday the 10th, and then the next Friday I know it opens in Chicago, probably some other markets as well. So, super good news about that. And then also A24 had a little movie that opened this week called Never Going Back that opened with 10,000 in 2 theaters. So not too shabby. It's mostly a VOD release anyway. So good news about that. That's pretty much it, guys. That's all I'm going to cover. And next week, our main review, Chase talked about it, is going to be Black Klansman. And of course, I'll have an extra review for you guys. I'm really excited for Black Klansman. I'm going to be revisiting a couple of Spike's movies in advance. So looking forward to that. And because I have an old Criterion DVD of Do the Right Thing that I'm going to rewatch. So that's about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to do Black Klansman. We got our tickets for Thursday, so we are ready to go. So that will be next week. And of course, guys, before we plug in our social medias, if you want the Avengers Infinity War digital code, please tweet at us at Real Joe Copling or Real Chase Lee and use the hashtag RealMeIn. And tell us what was your favorite movie over the summer and why. And I will pick the winner for that, and I will send you a free movie. Because that's just what we do here. I want to spread the love around. So, Joel, go ahead and take us out, my friend, with your social media plugins. Where can the lovely people find you online?
You can find much of my writing at joelonfilm.com. Of course, I've got reviews of Blindspotting and Christopher Robin, as well as Generation Wealth and The Miseducation of Cameron Post, 3 of the best movies of the year in theaters this weekend. And I also caught up with another really good movie called Love After Love, and I have a review of that as well. And you can follow me on Twitter at Real Joel Copling. That's ReelJoelCopling. And on Letterboxd at jcopling. And yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Real Chase Lee. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can just look at the onslaught that I just got from everyone from every corner of the globe on Death of a Nation, and of course other smaller reviews that I might do as well. I joke about it, and even though people call me names on there, I still enjoy doing it. And if you want to comment things like that, you're free to do so. Just giving my opinion on movies. That's just what I do. But yeah, and then of course for this podcast, whether you're listening on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or SoundCloud, or even CastBox, please spread this around and let people know this is the definitive movie podcast that you love listening to and you just can't get enough of. So we will see you guys next week for Black Klansman on episode 242. This has been Blindspotting. A+ from both of us. Please go see it, guys. That is Joel. I am Chase, and we will see you guys next week. Keep it awesome, and you guys are the best. But yeah, so Black Klansman next week. Super stoked. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.